Hey guys, this is Michael, with the Live Fit project on YouTube and on Instagram. I'm really, really excited because I have the opportunity to talk to someone I've been following, and it feels like a long time, but it's really only been the past few weeks. I've been following Gorman Goes Keto. I've got him. We're just going to have a conversation. I want to hear his story. He's got an incredible weight loss story. He's doing some cool stuff, just experimenting with diet and how it's impacting his life, and has some goals. 210 by KetoCon.
Yep.
He's working towards, and so we're just gonna have a conversation. So thanks so much for taking the time out and joining me on this. I really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks for having me today. I'm glad to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for those that haven't been following you for a long time, just what is your story? I know from
Sure.
what I can gather, you've lost weight in the past, and then like so many that struggle with obesity and food addiction, kind of rebounded, and then you're on the way back. So I'd like to hear a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I've been big my whole life. It's been something that, the first diet my family put me on when I was 10 was when I was 10. I was over 200 pounds, and they decided I would go on Weight Watchers at 10, which was kind of against the Weight Watchers rules. So because you couldn't bring kids to a meeting, they didn't want kids on the diet, which is probably smart. So my aunt, who was the Weight Watchers queen, kind of oversaw what was going on, and that started my up and down relationship with my size. I would go down and then back up, and down and back up, and I did that for many, many years throughout my life. And my heaviest was 540 pounds. I was in the 500s probably for 5 or 6 years. I moved during that time, and that was also when the economy crashed. I like to, as bad as that was, I like to say that it was a blessing to me because the poverty diet started. So my weight started to come down. Started to go back up again a little bit once I got work again. And I then went on a pretty serious diet. I would do spurts, 6-month diet spurts, but nothing really extended. And then it was like 2011, 2012, I really got serious and was doing paleo and low carb. Keto wasn't really something anyone talked about then. It was more talked about in medical circles. Wasn't really something that was big on the internet or anything. So I was more definitely paleo and then just low carb from my history with like the carb addicts diet and things along those lines. And I got down to 210 pounds in May of 2013. And I was not there for very long. I weighed in at 210 pounds on May 1st of 2013. And by October of 2013, by October 11th specifically, I was 480 pounds again. I gained 270 pounds in about 6 months, a little under that. I'm honestly not sure how I'm alive after that happened, to be honest with you. Like I can laugh when I say it now, but it's pretty serious, of the depth of my food issues and my food addiction. And so then I got back into living that life. I'd convinced myself that I was meant to be big and I didn't really have a choice. And that was the way things were going to be forever. And had some things happen with my family that just gave me like a wake up moment where I realized that even when I had tried to lose weight before, my head was never in it. My heart was never in it. It was always about doing it because I thought I had to do it. And for the first time, I realized that I wanted to do it because I wanted to be alive. So I started doing more research and trying to figure out what I thought would work best for me, knowing what I had worked in the past, and came across keto and really kind of got into reading more about it. And it made sense to me and was in line with how I like to eat and all of that. So I dove headfirst into keto, and I'm known for jumping into things and trying new things and not really saying, not taking 6 months to plan something out, like just saying, okay, tomorrow I'm keto. And so then that night I'm just going through my house and filling up garbage bags with all the food that I shouldn't have in the house and going to the store and buying what I needed and getting it going. And that was February of 2017. and I was 470 pounds then specifically. And now it's 2 years later, almost a little over 2 years now, 2 years and a week or so. And I'm 254 pounds. So I'm about
Wow.
216 pounds down, 286 pounds down from my heaviest.
Wow.
And just, it's my life. Keto is, like, I know it's cliche to say it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. But it really is. Like,
Yeah.
I was talking to someone yesterday who was like, well, how do you adapt to this and how do you adapt to that? And I'm like, eventually it just becomes second nature. So it's second nature to me now. So that kind of gets me to where I am today. Right. I
Sure.
guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Definitely.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
So, I guess what, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but just the driver, the primary motivator that
Mm-hmm.
made this time different. I know you said
Yep.
in your mind it was like eating to survive or
Yep.
changing in order to live, but
Mm-hmm.
um, what was it about this time that was different? Was
Sure.
it just that realization? Or
Um, well, I think it had to do with some things in my family.
okay,
Specifically, my parents were taking on the responsibility of raising some very small children that belong to another family member. That um, it's a messy situation, but
sure,
basically, my parents are raising those children, and we've had some serious discussions about my parents realizing that as much as they can do, they're going to need my help and my siblings' help down the line, because they flat out said, we don't know if we'll still be alive when these girls graduate from high school, and so someone will need to help. And while I know my sisters are there too, um, I knew that meant along the way, even, that they would need my help and they would need me to be someone who could be physically active and be partaking in life and not just existing. And that's what I've been doing for a long time, was just existing to eat, and planning my life around being able to eat more, and enabling the physicality. I was at a point where walking was not a big thing, and if I left for the day, left my apartment and got down to my car and realized that I forgot something upstairs, I was not going back, because I was only doing those stairs twice a day. Um, so I had reached that point where I had built that life, and I just realized that I couldn't do it anymore, and that I realized, and I knew also I was killing myself. I knew the physical symptoms I had. I was definitely undiagnosed, either type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic, from the symptoms that I had. And I've discussed that since with a doctor who said, yes, that's exactly what you were. And I was just letting those things happen. I was overlooking a lot of it, and not overlooking it. I knew it was happening, but I was letting it happen because I didn't care. I didn't think I was going to be alive long enough to worry about it.
mm,
I just made that decision that I was going to die. I was going to die young, but I was going to die quote unquote happy, because I was able to eat. Um, and I had that moment of realization that was what I was really doing, and that's what I was committing to, like committing my life to. And I knew I needed to change, and so that all kind of came to a head around the same time.
yeah,
So I think that was that driving force. And so I sat down and thought about what I did last time and how I messed it up and why I messed it up and where the falls came every
hmm
time I fell. There's some physical locations involved with that. I like to joke about the Baltimore airport. There's an Arby's at the Baltimore airport, and there are three major diet failures in my life that were all sparked off by stopping at the Arby's at the Baltimore airport. So I feel like I
wow.
never want to fly through that airport again if I can avoid it. But I know the mindset that I just wasn't working on. Like I was seeing things as temporary and seeing things as doing it to reach a goal and not as a reason to keep myself going. So had to make those changes. And so I've been trying to work as much on my mindset and my approach to life as I am to how I actually live it. If that makes
Yeah,
any sense.
yeah, definitely. Um, I'm self-employed. I'm an entrepreneur myself,
Hmm.
and so mindset. Everybody I talk to, every
Hmm.
entrepreneur
Hmm.
I talk to, or if you pay attention to whether it's interesting. Kind of the more I dive into like pursuing my own fitness journey, the
Yep.
parallels, the entrepreneurial leaders,
Mm-hmm.
the things they talk about are like mindset,
Yep.
self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
like all of these things. And then you come over to the fitness industry and they talk about mindset and being
Right.
self-aware, setting yourself up for success,
Mm-hmm.
like those types of things. So I could, it's definitely a huge, huge component that's easily overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Definitely.
it seems like when you relegate what you're doing to a diet,
Mm-hmm.
it almost removes that vital mindset component,
Mm-hmm.
and it creates just a set of rules that you're following because someone told you to follow rules, and you never
Right.
fix the mindset.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I completely agree with that. And I think that's what people, it's what we want as humans. We want someone to tell us what to do. We want someone to put those rules down for us. I mean, I get DMs all the time from people that just say, tell me how to do keto or tell me how to lose weight. And I'll say, one of the first things I say to people is, well, do some research and here's a few, websites for you to start with and some books. And I will, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to get back, no, just tell me what to do. And I'm like, I can't tell you what to do. You have to want to figure it out for yourself so that it can become something you can sustain and live with. And yes, I can tell you to do X. I can tell you to eat, X, Y, and Z, and you're going to lose weight for a while. And you're probably going to be successful, for 6 months to a year even.
Mm.
But then eventually you're not going to be, because you're going to stay so rigid to those rules. You're not going to realize that you have to flex and adapt and change and grow and learn more. And I think that's been a big part of my journey, is like figuring out that I still use the pieces of the different plans that I followed in the past, to support what I'm doing now. Like the paleo philosophy is still a big part of what I do. Like ingredients matter, types of ingredients matter, what goes into the food. I mean, there are a lot of people that have a lot of great success with keto that eat foods that terrify me because I know they were made in a lab. And I don't hold that against them in any way, but I know I just couldn't do it for myself, because I know, especially like the foods that mimic desserts and all of those things, those are the foods that I have a bad relationship with, that I have true problems controlling. And how does making them lower carb make that change that mindset approach to those foods? It doesn't. It's the same taste, it's the same texture, it's the same flavor. So for me, I can't put the brakes on when it comes to those things. So I'll eat, 2 dozen keto cookies like I'd eat 2 dozen Oreos. Like it's one of those things where I for me have to say, what are the things that work and don't work? And
Mhm.
so like what I do now is different than what I did for the first part of my journey, even on keto. And that's something else I was talking with someone yesterday about. Like, I don't think there is one approach to keto. I don't think that's one of the big conundrums with it, is because people want it to be like you're saying, like an X, Y, and a Z. And
Mhm.
that's not how keto works. There's so many different paths and tracks and variations. And I think that's good. It allows us to figure out what works best for us as individuals. When you build something more individual, you're more likely to be successful because you have a deeper investment on all levels. And so I think that's a good thing, but it's also one of the things that makes it a little more challenging than, say, doing like a Weight Watchers, where there's a formula they give you or something along those lines, or even like a plain like a slim fast, where it's like two shakes and a meal. It's not that simple, but I think that makes it even more satisfying when you're successful with it.
Sure, sure.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's definitely important. When you so when you first started, you mentioned that
Hmm.
your approach now and the way you do things now is different than when you first started.
Hmm.
So, kind of,
Yeah,
what was it like when you started? How did you get the
sure.
ball rolling, and then
Hmm.
how have you kind of evolved?
Sure. Well, I think I was really in that kind of what would be called like lazy, dirty keto. I was tracking my carb count to keep it under 25 net carbs a day, but fat and protein, I wasn't tracking at all. Calories, I wasn't tracking them at all. I was heavy enough so that the appetite reduction by reducing carbs was causing me to eat less calories naturally for the most part. So I didn't have to worry about that. I just kind of eyeballed things and put meals together based on knowing how many net carbs were in a product. And I would use a lot of the different, ketofied products. not really caring about the total carbs or the ingredients at times. And um, I did that for probably like the first year and a half of my weight loss, and that got me to the 290s last fall. And I stalled for 2 months. I stalled hard, and actually started regaining. I put back on like 5 pounds, even though I was still doing the exact same thing I was doing before. And I had to try to figure out what I was doing wrong. And I knew and I kind of had it in my mind that someday you're going to have to start tracking. You're going to have to start looking at full macros. You're going to have to start counting calories. I was reading more and more, about all of that being important. And I'm like, oh, it's going to have to happen. And I tried to approach it alone. I tried really hard to approach it alone. And I just like couldn't wrap my head around it. I'm like, I just can't figure this out. And so I made the decision to start working with a coach. And I did that for a couple of reasons. One, the big reason was to help me get organized and help me figure out how to do the tight tracking and make it work with my life and all of those things. But two was because I know I'm also getting close to where I want to be goal wise. At that point I was probably, 85, 90 pounds from that goal. And I was thinking, okay, I'm under the last 100 now. And this is when you screwed things up the last time. So what do you need, to fix, to prevent that this time? So I'm thinking I need support with that transition once I do hit goal. So I wanted to think about that. So my approach now is obviously much more structured. I count my macros, I count calories. Also, I made the switch from counting net carbs to total carbs. That was a complete game changer. It eliminates a lot of ingredients, a lot of things that I probably should have eliminated already, at least for me, in terms of the way I react to them, like sugar alcohols and things like that. And those foods that have 25 grams of fiber per serving to bring the net carbs down. There's ways to fit everything into those boxes. So I went from more of kind of a free floating, lazy keto to a structured program. That's been helping. And since I've started doing that, I'm almost 40 pounds down from late October of last year. So it got the ball rolling again and got it moving. And if I reach another point where I feel like this isn't working, I'll try something different. But for now, it seems like I'm on the right track to get me where I want to be in the end. So I feel good about that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, and I think it kind of touched on a key point that goes back to that mindset conversation we just had. You mentioned you stalled hard for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been really easy. And I've been there. Like, this is I can't even count it, attempts to weight loss, and been there. And I've had conversations with family members and people that I'm close to now that are in the same boat, that 2 or 3 weeks go by with no weight loss, and you feel like you're doing everything right.
Yep.
And I think that mindset, getting the mindset, like in your case, it enabled you to approach it from a experimental, that n equals 1
Mm-hmm.
approach, where it's okay. Like, I know that I've been successful. Something isn't working, and rather than just, well, like you said the first time, your mindset was, well, I guess I was just meant to never achieve the weight loss that I wanted to achieve, or whatever.
Right.
And kind of throwing in the towel, and then beginning the slow, steady, or fast, steady rise back to where we were and beyond.
Oh yeah.
The mindset that you built over the past year and a half enabled you to approach it differently and continue your success.
Definitely.
It's awesome.
Oh,
so
yeah, I completely agree with that. I've in the past, I've done exactly that. When I've hit those stalls, is when I've just said, and that's when I start to get into that mindset of, well, maybe this is wherever I am at that point. Maybe this is where I'm meant to be, and I could just I'll eat in moderation, and this is where I'll stay, and that lasts for like 4 days, and then I'm right back into those old habits, and things are skyrocketing again. But by then, I've thought, well, I gave it a go. What are you going to do?
Yeah. So what's your long-term goal now? Like your goal weight, and then also once I reach my goal weight, I expect to move into or continue or whatever. What's that look like?
Definitely. My goal weight right now is to get back to around 210 pounds. I feel like when I get there, especially with the amount of like loose skin I have and everything along those lines. Like I feel like my actual weight is probably closer to like 190 at that point. 190, 200 pounds. Um, and I'll see, how do I feel? How is my body moving? What are all those factors like? And I would like to then switch my focus more towards building strength, not necessarily with a goal of, I see, so many people in the weight loss sphere that want to, lose this amazing amount of weight and then become like go on stage or something along those lines. And that's not me. That is not where I feel like I'm headed at all. Trust me. I don't think there's a flying squirrel division at any of those contests. And I feel like I'll be the deflated balloon or the flying squirrel division, I like to say, with flaps of skin. But I like to start working on actually building strength. I think that's an area that is, for lack of, no pun intended, a weakness. Last year, I was very sick. I was hospitalized for 16 days with severe pneumonia. It almost killed me, and I was bedridden for a month after that. And during that time, when they say, for every week you're bedridden, you lose like 2 months of progress from like your physical activity. And that's true. I'm still struggling to get back to where I was physically before that happened. And that's with, working out continually and all of those things that I've been doing the past year. And it amazes me to think about how far I've come in the past year, but still how far I feel like I have to go. So I'm starting to look at all those different factors. So I think once I get around 210 is when I'll start to assess and, with the reverse dieting also, because I am in quote unquote a cut right now with my calories lower and, get myself back up to a maintenance level, calorie wise. And then from there, figure out a plan for what's the best way, what's the best approach for me to kind of take my physical training to another level. Like right now, my training is really about maintaining muscle and getting a little bit stronger, but really more about helping with supporting weight loss. And I'd like to switch that focus over actual doing some strength building and doing some more traditional strength building work and things along those lines. Like, because I think the piece that was missing before was I hit a goal and I had nothing planned after that. I had no what comes next. And I can't remember who it was. I was watching someone on YouTube yesterday who just said, with weight loss, like the goal has to be that there's never an end. And that doesn't mean that you're continuing to try to lose weight for the rest of your life, but it does mean that you're able to kind of take those big picture goals and translate them to something else so that you're still working towards something, so that energy and drive goes somewhere and doesn't return back into those old patterns and fall back into those old places that we know we fall into because they're really comfortable and it's really easy. So I need to identify what the next challenges will be. And I think it'll also come from challenges that are outside my physical. I feel like part of my experience is figuring out ways to share my experience with other people and help other people. And will that mean something specific or something general? I don't know. But I'd like to, as the next months progress, explore where I feel like that's going to take me and where I can best kind of put that out there and how I can reach the most people, but also give the most, support to people. So I'm working on some different ideas for things that'll go along those lines too.
That's awesome. Yeah. Cool. I think, again, just keys, like little tidbits of info that you've kind of assimilated as just part of your mindset that I think it's important for, me to remember, anybody else that's doing the same thing. Like you said, the last time you kind of hit your goal weight and you're like, okay, now what? Now what do I do? And we have to use the scale, right, to measure progress and make sure we're doing okay. But, I think that's one of the things with tying so much importance to that number. And I've used the analogy before when we hear somebody wins the lottery, or there's all these studies about someone winning the lottery and how they go from normal to a millionaire overnight, literally.
Yep.
Just how many, a year later, the statistics are that they're worse off than they were before. I feel like that kind of applies to weight loss, is that we all want this super quick
Oh yeah.
answering this quick hit. And if we get it, like we're actually hurting ourselves because we'll be worse off because we haven't developed that mindset and built those plans out. Like, this is what I'm going to do once I achieve my goal weight. This is what
Yep.
it's more about what is this going to enable me to accomplish in life
Hmm.
than, okay, I got this number on a scale. Now I'm happy for the rest of my life. Because everybody can recognize that's not going to be the case.
Right. Right. Completely.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's exciting. So,
Definitely.
like, I guess talking about, you know, tools and tidbits, things that, so if someone's just getting started,
Hmm.
let's go there. If
Sure.
someone's just getting started with their diet and they're trying to
Hmm.
figure out how can I have the success that you've had,
Yep.
like what's your starting advice? Obviously go research.
Right.
Be
Right.
willing to take some
Yeah.
ownership yourself, but
Definitely.
then where do you go?
Sure. I think the biggest thing, that the biggest piece of information that I echo with so many other people that have had similar successes, you have to realize that it's not about getting motivated, that it's not about
Mm,
motivational posters and motivational tidbits and any of that. It's about realizing that consistency and regular commitment are the things that really lead to success. Like, know that some days are going to suck. Know that when you start, you're going to have this adrenaline rush that's going to carry you, and it could carry you for months, but eventually it's going to stop. And there are going to be days when you get up and you think it's too cold, or it's too wet, or I just don't feel like doing it today, or I forgot to meal prep, so I'll just grab something quick, or and it won't matter if I go off plan for today. That's when the problems start. When you start to rely on that feeling of motivation, that fire. Like, I think, to me, the key is going to bed every night saying, I commit to do this again tomorrow, and waking up the next day and saying, I'm going to do this again. And every day do that. Even if you have to write that down on a piece of paper and hang it next to your bed, so it's the last thing you see at night, is you're going to do this again tomorrow. So, no, even if you screw up today, even if you screw up tomorrow, you're still committing to follow that plan. And I think the other piece is have a plan. Um, I think sometimes people just say they want to try something. And I have some friends that, try 10 or 15 different diets a month because
mm,
they do something for 3 days and it doesn't, quote unquote, work. I think trying to figure out what you think works best for you, that research piece, like I said, I think the big part of that is, especially, people see someone having a lot of success with keto, for example, like me. And so they immediately think, I'm going to do keto. But there's someone that can't wrap their head around the restrictive nature of keto as something you have to put into your life for the rest of your life. Like,
mhm,
you can transition out of keto if you want to. Like, obviously, like, you can transition out of any diet. But if you don't do that properly, you've put your body into a very specific metabolic state that's going to have an impact. So as soon as if you switch, literally, and this is what happened to me in 2013. I went from, next to no carbs in one day to, hundreds of grams of carbs the next day. And I put on 30 pounds in 3 days. Um, and that was just my body
mm,
flooding with water. I put on 100 pounds the first month. Um, and like I said, I don't know how I'm alive. In a lot of ways, I don't
mhm,
know how I'm alive. And my doctors actually think I probably at some point during that time had a heart attack. But there's no lasting damage, but there's electrical
mm,
fluctuations that
yep,
seem to imply that. And I would say it had to be during that time. It had to be during
yeah,
that time. Um, but I think you have to think about what is going to be something that you can sustain, what is something you can live with. And if you see something as a quick fix, know that that's a red flag. If something promises you change in 20 days, there should be red flags that go up all over the place. Like, you want to think about, what is your behavior that needs to change? So ask yourself those questions. Like, what are the behaviors that get you in trouble? What are the things that are causing, you know, and it's like, excuse me, it's like you're saying, like, approach your mindset and approach everything in your life and how it feeds into your behavior. What have you built around your food behaviors and around your weight and all of those things? And think about what you need to change. For some people, that means making changes really small and really slowly.
Mhm.
because they resist change really hard. For me, if I attempt to make a change slowly, I fail because I just can't. My head goes right back to the other place. So
Mm.
for me, I have to commit to something that I'm doing 100%. So it's that self-awareness. It's knowing. Look at other successes in your life. So if you're great at business but you're horrible at weight loss, what are the things that are good that make you good at your business or whatever it is that you do that you're good at, and
Mhm.
try to mimic those patterns and behaviors in your approach to your fitness journey. If you know that throwing yourself in 100% and having a strict plan is what gets you going, great, do that. If you know that you're the kind of person that cannot stick to a strict plan for 7 days a week and that you need that one day to blow that plan off, build that in and think about what impact that will have on your journey. But I have friends that do that too, that do like paleo or keto, like low carb 80-20 or 90-10 in terms of percentages.
Mhm.
And for them, that helps. For me, that 10% becomes 20, becomes 30, becomes 40, becomes 50. And soon it's all the
Yeah.
bad behavior and none of the good behavior. So I think it's build that self awareness and know that you can make choices. And that's the other thing for me. One of the things that I've really gotten into over the past year is Stoic philosophy and Stoicism. And that came out of my hospital experience and that idea that I almost did die, but we could die at any time. And one of the big tenets in there is control yourself and know what you can control. And
Mhm.
I can only control my choices, but I control my hands, and my hands are what put the food in my mouth. Um, and that sounds dumb and simple. And I don't mean to imply that it's easy. It's not always easy to control my hands. It's not always easy to stop that food from getting in my mouth. But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, there's no one else moving my hands. And so I can control it. Uh, it just means that there are times where I choose not to. And I think being aware of why I choose not to is the thing that's different. It's taking that mindlessness that we all use to approach our food out of the equation and
Mhm.
trying to say, okay, I am hungry right now. And there are times like I like to share this with people that this has never been an easy journey for me. It's a simple journey, but it's not an easy journey.
Yeah.
It's what I have my plan in place. It's simple to follow, but it doesn't mean that it's always easy. It doesn't mean that I don't finish my food for the day some days and realize that I'm still starving. And that doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. And I realize I have to white knuckle my way through the rest of the day. And sometimes that means I go to bed 2 hours earlier than I planned because I know if I stay awake, I'm going to make bad choices. Like,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. And I think there are some people that would hear that and say, well, that's crazy. And you're obsessive and you're obsessed. And no, it's about knowing what I need to do to get to my goals and to keep myself alive. At the end of the day, it's about keeping myself alive. And so, yeah, sometimes I do things that I don't like. It doesn't mean I ever do anything harmful to myself or to anyone
Sure.
else, but it means sometimes there are parts of me that are like, you know, oh, just eat that. Or, oh, just this once, have something extra. But I know me. I know that that's the part of me. The part of me that's saying it'll be okay is the part that's a liar. That's the part that's
Mhm.
lying inside of me. When I fell hard in 2013, it was because of one cheat meal. And people always say, like, I know there are people that do cheat meals and they survive it. And I respect them and I admire them and I'm jealous as heck. But I know that for me, that like, because I literally, I know the day that it broke for me. And I had just gotten back from a vacation for my 40th birthday. I had done great on vacation. I was proud of myself. I ate at that Arby's at the airport because I told myself I deserved it. And I had a bag of Reese's peanut butter cups before I got on the plane as well. I got home and my plan was to be back on plan. I was back on plan for a full day. I was not feeling the greatest the next day. I don't know if it was a cold or if it was the crap food already getting to me or whatever it was. I left work sick and stopped at Whole Foods. And the plan was to get broccoli and chicken and go home and cook that. And I got some broth too. And as I was walking around the store, I decided, you know, you're not feeling great. This is a good time. Just do one cheat meal. So I think I bought a pint of a local ice cream and I think I got a brownie. And then as I was walking around, I decided, well, let's do a whole cheat day. And so I bought some more food that was not great. By the time I got to the car, I decided it was going to be a cheat weekend, and I hit a fast food place on the way back to my apartment. By the time the weekend was over, or by the time that day was over, I had planned to have a cheat week. And by the time that weekend was over, and that weekend was just debauchery in terms of food, like crazy debauchery. But by Monday, I had decided I was done dieting, and I had failed, and there was no use going back, and all because I had made that decision, that first decision. And it's an extrapolation for sure, but it to me was very clearly that I didn't have the ability to handle that decision. So why put myself back into that place? So for me, I know I don't do cheat meals right now. Like I don't. Does that mean I'll never do one in my life? I can't say that because I don't know what my life will bring. But for right now, I know that I need to still follow the plan that I put in front of me.
Yeah.
So it's like again, simple but not easy.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was watching a video the other day, a fitness guy on YouTube, and he was talking about food addictions and people that are obese, and he was comparing it to like drugs and alcohol, and he's like, food addiction is completely different than those. It's similar, but it's also completely different because, like, if you're an alcoholic, like it's hard not to downplay the difficulty, but you stop buying alcohol, you stop going to bars, you stop going to restaurants that serve alcohol, and then you can carry on a normal life other than that. If you're a drug addict, you stop buying drugs, you stop doing drugs, you stop hanging out with friends that do those things, whatever, and then you carry on your normal life after that. With food addiction, every single day, the addict has to face the thing that they're most addicted to. And they have to take it in order to survive. And so it's so much more difficult to overcome because literally every single day you're staring down the barrel of the gun that's holding you hostage. And you have to just suck it up and move on. Because if you don't, then you're back off the wagon, and it's 6 months down the road and you've gained everything you've lost.
Oh yeah, completely.
I think that's something that's hard for those that haven't had that struggle to understand.
Oh, completely.
It's like, oh, you just do this or you just do that. Yeah, it's difficult.
Definitely.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, so I guess, let's see. I totally lost my train of thought.
It's okay. It's okay. That happens. It's Friday afternoon, so
It is, and it's like really cold in my office. So my hands are getting cold, and I'm not used to being cold. Like I posted, like I can't wait till I'm cold, and I layer up a lot.
Oh yeah,
I'm not there yet, so it's still weird.
I'm cold all the time. I'm cold all the time now. That's the difference. I literally in my life, I don't think up until this winter, I ever really owned a winter jacket. I mean, last winter, I was hospitalized most of the winter. So I missed most of the cold because I was in the house. So I never even got to a point where I was like outside smaller because I wasn't outside. And this winter I have hoodies and I have 3 jackets of different thicknesses. And today I have an undershirt. I wear undershirts now, which I've never done that before. An undershirt, an overshirt, a hoodie, and a winter jacket, hats and a glove, and it's 30 degrees out. So it's not as cold as it has been. And I see people who are like, it's not that cold. And I'm like, you don't understand. I'm freezing all the time. And I yell all the time at thinner people, how the hell do you live your lives like this? Because I'm cold all the time. And they're like, it's not like that all the time. I'm like, it is. All I can think about is being cold. So it's funny. It's funny.
I have to admit, that's one of the NSVs the non-scale victories I'm looking forward to like crazy. Because summers in the Midwest are they're hot and it's humid and it's like walk outside and I always wear an undershirt because if I don't, I'm sweating through my clothes. And so like I'm looking forward to that. What other non-scale victories, like what are your favorite ones?
Chairs with arms. being able to go to any theater, especially like we have a couple like really nice, like our performing arts theaters in this area that are old, like really old.
Mhm.
And so the seats are small, old seats. And I went with some friends to see Patton Oswalt last weekend at one of the older theaters. And I was nervous. I'm like, okay, I haven't been to this theater probably in 10 years, easy. What is this going to be like? And I sat down with no problem. So the idea that I don't have to worry anymore and plan about, can I sit somewhere? Like if
Mhm.
friends suggest a new place to go, I don't call in advance to find out about the seating anymore and make up an excuse to not go if I know there isn't going to be seating that can accommodate me. I was at my 2 years ago, I was outgrowing my car. Like I was to a point where I couldn't wear a jacket zipped up inside of my car because the wheel wouldn't turn. It was such a tight squeeze. And now I don't worry about fitting into cars. I don't worry about having problems driving, which is it's it's something I don't think most people think about. Like,
No.
but you're not that big. Like you don't think about that. Like being able to use any bathroom. One of the things I was thinking about today, because there's a my birthday's coming up in a little bit, and so I have like a challenge I put in place for it. And one of the things I want to do is share a non-scale victory every day. And so I already posted one for today, but one of the other ones I've been thinking about is how much easier it is to shower in the morning. Like there's not as much acreage to cover in the shower, like
Yeah.
literally. So it doesn't take as long. I have a bench that I used to put in the shower because I needed to sit when I was showering because I would get exhausted from standing that long, or I couldn't stand with one leg lifted to try to clean parts of myself. So I would, need the stool to put my foot up or to sit on and lift my legs, like all of that. So it just hygiene becomes easier. I remember when I was a kid watching a talk show, and it was one of the episodes with them bringing very large people on, and the activist Dick Gregory had a big famous diet plan. This was back in the 80s. It was called the Bahamian diet, and he was talking about the changes that these people's lives were making. And I remember very distinctly that he used the phrase that they had arms too short to box with God. Uh, and at first, I had no idea what that meant, and we didn't have Google back then to figure it out. And he explained that wiping your butt was a challenge when you can't reach and you
Yeah.
can't get at the right angles and everything. So literally, I can clean myself easier, and it doesn't take as much thought and worry. And I don't have to think about, am I going to have to go home and take a shower because I can't get myself completely clean? And I know that can be TMI for some people, but it's very real. The
Yeah.
amount of space that takes up in your head, the amount of, you know, room that gets filled up with all that worry and all that anxiety. And to have all of that gone is the best thing. And to know now that, there's a lot of things about me that are quote unquote normal. Like when I have blood tests done and things along those lines. And I being hospitalized was what broke me of my fear of doctors, because I avoided the doctors for many, many, many years, too many years, because I knew I was going to be diagnosed with problems that I didn't want to face.
Mm.
When you're literally hours away from dying, and that's what the doctor told me, that if I didn't go to the emergency room when I did, I would have died that night, because of where my oxygen level was.
Wow.
And now so I had my first round, like all the blood work going on in the hospital, but I had my first annual physical in decades, literally, after that hospital stay. And I was terrified to hear how the blood work was going to come back. And the blood work came back, and my doctor was like, everything looks really great. Even your A1C is normal. You're on the low end of normal for your blood ranges. And that was just such an amazing weight off my shoulders to be able to know that those aren't things that I face now. And it's all because of how I eat. So there's something that reinforced for me the power of food, in good ways in our lives. So I think that was something that was really helpful.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
That's awesome. It's awesome. So I know we've got just a few minutes left.
Sure.
Any last minute tips or thoughts or?
Sure. I just think reach out to people if you're trying to start this journey. You're trying to figure out what works for you. I think Instagram is an amazing place for support. I could go off on a tangent for a half hour about how I feel about fitness groups on Facebook. There just seems to be a lot of negativity there for some reason. I don't know why. I wish I could figure out why. But I think there's a lot of people on Instagram, regardless. I'm connected with so many people that aren't even keto and don't do keto and still talk to them, and we support each other. And I think use the tools. Like, there are all these new tools that are available to us now that didn't exist 10 years ago and 15 years ago. So if you've tried before and failed and you're trying again, look to the new tools that are out there that can help you. And, find that if you feel alone, know that you're not alone, and that there's someone else out there that is probably going through something similar. And it doesn't mean they know exactly how you feel, but it means they know enough so that you can, draw some strength from each other. And, just don't give up on yourself. Know that even if today's not the day you're ready to make the change, that you can do it and that you can always try again, even if you failed before. I mean, I have probably failed at diets 10 to 12 times in my life, easy, like significantly. And I'm not giving up. So just don't give up. And I know that's cliche, but really, I think it's important for people to know that you can be successful and fail and be successful again. And like, you keep looking for learn from those mistakes and, don't ignore them, but learn from them and move on.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Very true. It's cliche because it's true.
Right.
And then people looking to find you and connect with you. How do we
Sure. Instagram is probably the best. Gormy Goes Keto, but it's GORMY, Gormy _goes_keto. Hit me up if you DM me. I try to get right back. For some reason, I had like 6 DMs not get notifications about them from Wednesday, and I just discovered them this morning scrolling through my DM box. But I do my best to get back to people quickly and give as thoughtful of a response as I can. So if something we said today sparked a conversation you want to have, reach out to me, or if you just want to follow my page, definitely feel free to.
Awesome. Well,
Great.
Again, thanks so much for the time, for all
Definitely.
just all the tidbits. I think like that's the beauty. I love having conversations like this because
Awesome.
it's like you can go back and listen and find a tidbit and then go back and listen again and find another one. Like there's just so much we can learn from each other. Just humans in general learning from each other if we take the time to sit and have a conversation. So I appreciate it.
For sure. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on and us being able to talk today. It was good.
Yeah,
It was
for
good.
sure.
Good stuff. Definitely.